So hello, welcome to the very first episode of the Rahul Show. I'm your host, Rahul. I think that's incredibly obvious. I can see the name of the show, but hey, let's move on, right? So I'm a 17-year-old, I'm from Canada, and this entire talk show is going to be about politics, about stuff that affect you and me, and things that are going on in the global stage, because it's high time that we think about these things critically. And guess what? I guess the best topic to start off this entire series off with is something that us Indians hold incredibly close to our hearts. Possibly the thing that we feel is the greatest thing about our country. Because here's the thing, foreigners can come up to us and say that India has terrible, terrible pollution, right? And we have terrible civic sense, or that cultural practices in India are in some ways backward. And in many of these cases, many of us may agree with these criticisms to an extent. But the second somebody questions the democratic integrity of India, or or even suggests the idea that India is not as democratic as it may seem, we freak out. We go absolutely bonkers. And the reason why is because in 2025, in India, and not only in India, but all across the world, the democracy is seen as a synonym for fairness, for justice, for greatness, for efficiency. It's seen as this perfect system of governance that every country should follow. To the point that using words such as democratic is literally a positive connotation, right? It's not a crazy jump or a crazy leap of faith to say that democracy is almost worshipped, right? Anything that is undemocratic is instantly seen to be as something that should be looked down upon, something that is not good. In fact, our go-to phrase whenever we want to flex the fact that we are Indian is that we are citizens of the world's biggest democracy. But is democracy really all that great? Is democracy really leading to justice, equality, fairness, and efficiency? Because the way I see it, democracy isn't really the rule of the majority, which is what most people think democracy is. In my opinion, democracy is more so the rule of the oligarchy. Because at the end of the day, most of the people who are voting are not voting depending on their conscience. They're not thinking about everything. They're not analyzing stuff. They aren't cross-checking sources. What they do is look at what their friends are talking about. Look at what the media is telling them. What are the cultural norms? And they vote based on that, right? They're not voting on the basis of who has a better economic policy, who may be better for the country, but rather what the media tells them, what the media thinks is best for them. And guess who controls the media? The oligarchy, the elite. The elite decide what type of campaigns end up being successful and what kind of campaigns don't end up being successful. Narratives, all of it, is crafted by the elite. So is democracy even really the rule of the majority? Or is it actually just the rule of the elite, but through a proxy? And on top of that, in what world is the average person's voting capabilities equivalent to somebody who actually thinks about politics? Because if you look at it, there's a 40-year-old guy, and I'm not kidding you. In the real world, there's a 40-year-old dude from Bihar, right? He's an uncle. He's scrolling through his WhatsApp right now, and he sees a poster, right? And it's going to be a poster of some random Indian guru, and the caption's going to read, hey, this 95-year-old guru has lived off of sunlight for the last 40 years. And they're going to believe it. They're going to share it, and they're going to forward it into 5 different family groups. That's the person who's voting over here. And on the other hand, we have people who actually went and got a college education, perhaps, actually thought about these political questions, actually came up with a logical conclusion. Their votes are equivalent. And let me tell you, there are a lot more people who are irrational, who believe what they see on WhatsApp University, than people who actually work on their conclusions. And those people are the ones who are going to win those elections. Because at the end of the day, it's just a rule of the mob. And on the other hand, we have a dude who's probably college educated, probably thinks about these questions to a deeper degree, and actually looks into stuff rather than believing what they see on WhatsApp University. And let me tell you, there are a lot more people in the category of the uncle then there are people who actually think about political issues. And what's going to end up happening when the votes are equivalent? Well, obviously, the ones who are able to propagate irrational ideas end up winning. Democracy doesn't really even select for what is the best for the country, but rather what is the best in the eyes of a population that is becoming increasingly stupid with the advent of, well, mass information through social media, where you can post anything you want with very limited repercussions. And on top of that, we have artificial intelligence. So in an age of easy manipulation, in an age where practically everybody can be convinced of anything, how is democracy even going to give us actual results? I mean, this is something that we see in the Republic, in the discourses. We see Socrates criticizing democracy, stating that an individual who is an individual who is the owner of a sweet shop could go up to the voters and say that, hey, look at me, I give you sweets, I give you stuff that make you feel good, right? Vote for me, you get as many sweets as you want. Look, my opponent, who's a doctor, he gives you better medicine. He hurts you. He tells you that you can't eat what you like. Don't vote for him, vote for me. And what is the second person supposed to say? What is the doctor supposed to say? The second he says that I have to hurt you in order to ensure that you have better life outcomes by the end of it, they just sound clip the initial bit, they post it on 5 different social medias, and that's it. That's it for him. The entire jig is up, right? And the election is lost. Also, we have to talk about the absolute waste of resources that is spent on all of these election campaigns. Very recently, in Trivandrum, there was an election for the corporation, and every 5 minutes, oh my god, there were 10 different trucks with speakers just blasting 5 different music videos practically, where they're dissing each other and saying that they are going to be the best candidate. And then they post a bunch of random banners which decay, which just fall apart, and they just pollute everything. And let me tell you, if you make the small mistake of not writing no bills on your wall, it's absolutely over. The next second, there's 50 communist logos and a BJP one right above it. This is ludicrous. This is just simple barbarianism. And are these politicians even working for what is good in the long term? Because look at their incentives. They're not going to be in the office 100% for a long amount of time. They have to go for re-election every 4 years perhaps. Now think about it. If they are not able to bring in short-term results within that 4-year time limit, then they're out of office. But the best decisions for the long term perhaps don't show benefits in the short term. Perhaps they actually show disadvantages in the short term. So in many of these cases, the politician simply would not take those decisions. They can't take the right decisions because taking the right decisions just leads to them getting kicked out of office. And guess what? Another crook is inside of office. Back in the age of monarchies, kings had something to fight for. I mean, these kings were going to be here for a long time. Their children were going to be there. Their entire sustenance relied on their kingdom. They had an innate motivation to ensure that what they're doing actually works out, that they don't upset the citizenry too much. Because guess what happens when that happens? They're done. They're done for the executed. They're thrown out of power, right? And their family's honor is destroyed. That's a really big incentive there. But for the politician, there really isn't anything. He just does what he wants. He does a little bit of corruption. And he just steps into the shadows. Never to be seen again like Batman. A king can't really do that.